Please stand by. Good day and welcome to the MS Corporation Timeline Followback Conference Call. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Ms. Liz Buttrey. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's training seminar. It's a little after 1. We're going to go ahead and get started with some introductory items. The presentations were attached to the email invitation that everybody received. Just for the duration of the webcast, all participant phone lines will remain on mute. If you have a question at any time, press *1, and the operator will present your question to the presenter, Amanda, and then your line will be opened up so that you can speak freely. If anybody experiences any technical difficulties, go ahead and press *0 during the call, and the operator will get on the line with you, help you privately, and it will not interrupt the training session. Joshua, is there something else you wanted to add?
I don't believe so at this point.
Okay. Amanda, it's all yours then.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liz. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Amanda Moore, and I will be your guide through the training for the timeline followback as it is used in the CTN. My first experience with the timeline followback was while working at a CTN site in Michigan for Protocol 17. But enough about me for now. Let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. So this training is designed to prepare research staff to accurately use the timeline followback with CTN study participants. And the method might even recalling events in your everyday life. So accurate use of this method can make the process of recalling days of substance use easier and more comfortable for the participant and the research staff. I learned this when I was administering the timeline followback. After a brief refresher training with my site PI, I found I was finally using the techniques as intended, and it made my interactions with the participants go much more smoothly. All right, and I just want to make sure that everyone go ahead and make sure you have your PowerPoint handouts in front of you right now and one blank paper source calendar. Okay, the flow of this training will start with an introduction to terminology, then move into the 3 phases of the method, followed with a demonstration and live practice. We're going to follow that up with an open question and answer session at the end. After completing this training, you can expect to have a better understanding of the purpose, benefits, and procedures of the timeline followback method, which will allow you to be more confident and collect better information in research trials. So there is some terminology specific to this training. Terminology you will hear throughout the presentation includes the timeline followback. I know, imagine that. But often in the CTN, it is referred to as the substance use calendar. The timeline followback is validated, which is why proper training and administration are essential. A paper calendar is the source document for the timeline followback, and the CTN's choice for electronic data capture is Inform. The anchor dates are the essential tool of the method, and they include holidays, birthdays, special events, any events that the participant feels are significant. Now that we've gone through a little bit of the terminology, let's go ahead and get into phase 1 of the process, which is preparation. Excuse me. If using an auto-generated calendar, visit window calculator, or really any method, you want to double-check the dates before assuming they are correct. It is vital to collect the protocol-indicated time period at each research visit. Also, once the dates are verified, you can go ahead and print that calendar out. And at this point, you can mark the start and end dates you will be collecting. This is especially helpful if you're only collecting part of a month or small segments of time. All data on the source calendar must be collected in pen, which is standard good clinical practice. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. If standard holidays don't happen to be filled out on your calendar, you'll want to go ahead and add them at this time during your preparation. You also want to make sure that you've secured a location where the participant's confidentiality can be maintained as you go through the timeline follow-back. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at a calendar. This is an example of a properly prepared calendar. It lists standard holidays. You can see there's St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Good Friday, and it also lists the starting point for time collection and the end point. Of course, the way that you mark the start and the end, it can be a little star in the corner, any method that you want to use. Phase 2 of the process is the introduction. The introduction gives the interviewer a chance to build rapport, explain the process, and get the participant on board with the procedure by explaining at least one way that it might benefit them. Good information to include in your introduction is an explanation of the timeline follow-back and confidentiality, what information will be collected, and the benefit to the participant. So once the interview is ready to begin, there are a few things to keep in mind. All information goes directly on the paper source calendar, and each day should be completed individually. So no ditto marks or lines through subsequent days with the same information. Back in the day when I was working on Protocol 17, I would sometimes have to collect 30 to 90 days of information at a time. And one of the items that we collected was a substance abuse treatment. And it was often tempting to use the line-through method when I would have a participant who had maybe been in inpatient treatment for 30 straight days. I know it gets tedious writing the same thing repeatedly, but it is required for this method. So phase 3 is the interview. After you've completed the introduction, anchor dates are going to continue to be added. And of course, they will be added in pen. You can start by asking the participant to recall personal events and documenting them on the calendar. There are a few examples listed on this slide, but sometimes the participant will need to hear more examples to spark their memory. So let's take a few minutes now to brainstorm some examples of personal events. Josh, could you go ahead and open up the lines for so everybody can...
All lines are now open.
Okay, so does anybody good idea? Not everybody all at once. Just anything that you can think of that might happen over a time period with someone. It could be maybe the anniversary date of when they became sober.
Hey, Amanda?
Yes.
It's Liz. One of the, Maria, the safety monitor here at work, has recommended that sometimes it's the female's menstrual cycle days can sometimes be an anchor date for them.
So for women, that's often a good personal event that you might want to collect. All right. Does anybody else have any?
Starting a new job.
Starting a new job, definitely. Starting or ending a job. So how about some things that maybe, you might do on a non-regular basis? Maybe getting in touch with an old friend? All right, let's come up with a couple more.
What about traveling or taking a trip?
Definitely traveling or taking a trip.
How about a family get-together or a party of some sort?
About their kids' events, impact on them, like attending like a teacher's conference, something like that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Okay, any other ideas right now?
What about a friend's marriage or a friend's divorce?
Yeah. Or a friend or them. Okay, so I think we've got a pretty good list now that you'd be able to pull from. And of course, as you go on and, when you're with the participant, you might have some more ideas that might be specific to them. All right, now let's take a look at a calendar with personal events listed. As you can see here, this participant was kicked out of a motel on the 1st of March. They stayed at their mom's house on the 14th. And their son's birthday was on the 15th. Are there any questions about this stuff? Okay, I will take silence as understanding. Josh, can we go ahead and close the lines again?
All lines are now closed.
All right, thank you. All right, so once the personal events are documented, treatment episodes should be added to the calendar. As is listed on the slide, that can be any type of treatment, 12-step meetings, inpatient, outpatient care, anything that they might have been a part of. And then on this calendar, you can see that this participant began treatment on the 31st of March. All right, so after you have those items listed, you might want to probe for long periods of abstinence or use. It is often easier to remember something done for many days in a row instead of intermittently. For example, the participant may recall they didn't use anything from St. Patrick's Day until the end of March due to a particularly heavy day of use on the infamous green beer holiday. If that is the case, abstinence or no use should be listed in each calendar square at that time. Sometimes you'll find in this step that it may also elicit single days of abstinence, which can also be recorded at this time. Long periods of use. I just want to give a little bit of a word of caution on that. It is important to be cautious when requesting long periods of use. If a participant uses a blanket statement like, "I used every day," that doesn't mean that you go ahead and enter their primary drug of choice in each calendar square and be done with it. You don't know, different drugs could have been used on different days. There might be possible days of abstinence that the participant may have forgotten. For example, I can remember a particular participant whose primary drug of choice was heroin. And when we would get to the timeline follow-back, actually before I was a skilled interviewer, he would always state he used heroin every day since his last visit. I would document that accordingly and move on. Until that refresher training that I mentioned earlier with my site PI. At the participant's next visit, I used the proper techniques to aid in substance use recall and found that when he couldn't find heroin, that he was actually taking his mother's hydrocodone. It was infrequent. It was actually so infrequent that until he had the anchor dates to trigger his memory, the hydrocodone use had been forgotten. And on this calendar, you can see that there was some intermittent abstinence recorded. As was just mentioned, sometimes asking for those long periods of abstinence will trigger intermittent days of no use. All right, and then once you have all possible anchor dates collected, long periods of abstinence and use, treatment episodes, once all of those are documented, you'll want to ask the participant if they prefer to start at the beginning or the end of the time period. Sometimes it might be easier for them to start at the beginning because they might have more anchor dates around then. Sometimes it's easier to start with yesterday just because it's such a close time period. Then you'll go ahead and begin using anchor dates to collect the substance use information. information. So now in this next slide, you can see a completed calendar. And this calendar actually reflects the information that we will be partially completing in the demonstration that will take place in a few minutes. So as you can see here, the participant primarily used cocaine and alcohol, but then like here on the 1st of March, there was some heroin use, marijuana on the 23rd, Valium on the 29th. So even though they had, 2 primary drugs, the anchor dates helped them to remember some other drug use that they had. All right, and of course, the primary purpose of all this is data collection. Like was mentioned earlier, this is all collected first on a paper source calendar when you're sitting there with the participant. So after you meet with the participant, you'll go ahead and complete your data entry. And after data entry is complete, be sure to store that paper source calendar with the participant source documents. There are some common errors that occur in this process, and I'm going to go ahead and make you aware of them now, so maybe you can avoid them. Wrong time periods. An example of how wrong time periods can be collected is if a consent date is used to auto-generate time periods or visit windows. I know that's a method that's used in a lot of the CTN trials. But incorrect entry of this consent date will lead to incorrect data collection because you're not going to have the right windows. During your preparation time, which was phase 1, you'll want to verify that consent date is correct to avoid any wasted effort or time. Actually, when I've been out and monitored sites who use the timeline follow back, I have found this error, and it can result in missing data points, and nobody wants that. So also, wrong time period collection could also mean accidentally collecting overlapping dates from one visit to the next. So when you're preparing the calendar and marking the beginning and ends of the collection period, compare the beginning date for this research visit to the end date from the last research visit, and just verify that there are no overlaps or gaps in your data collection. And of course, it is never okay to collect research data in pencil, but if you find that you or another member of your research staff has made this error, it would be corrected as any error is corrected. I think we all know how that goes, line through, initial, and date, and you'll rewrite the response right above it or below it in pen. There's some other things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you're covering all the steps in the process. Try to have clear, legible handwriting, and be familiar with the names of the drugs so that you can make sure you're writing those down correctly. There are several techniques that will help the interview be successful. Right now, I want you to think of some ways that you have built rapport, encouraged the participant, or refocused the participant if they strayed off topic. Josh, can you go ahead and open up the lines again at this time?
All lines are now open.
Okay, great. So does anybody have any ways that they've used to build rapport with study participants?
Eye contact and smiling, perhaps? A warm smile and eye contact?
Yeah, very easy to do and very effective.
I'll let them know that sometimes it's difficult to, recall things that happened several weeks ago, but that I would help them get through it.
Okay, so you validate that it's a difficult process, but let them know that you're going to help them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other techniques for rapport building? those techniques are definitely some good ones. Also, just matching their tone and affect, matching their speech style can also really help build rapport and have a good relationship with your study participant. How about encouragement? What are some ways that you've encouraged a participant who may have been tired, not feeling like doing it that day, just whatever the situation may be? What are some ideas for encouragement? So I know this is something that we might not think about regularly, but I think most of the research staff out there, it's something that you probably do without thinking about it. And, it's just, letting them know that you understand their needs, or letting them know, as was mentioned with the rapport building, that you're going to work through things together. Are there any other ideas? Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to a very important thing, refocusing. Sometimes, going through substance use calendar, timeline follow back, it may elicit emotional memories. So being able to refocus the participant on the task is important. So what are some situations or ways in which you've refocused a participant in the past? It's out if I have it out here. You can put that in. I know with all these people on the line, we can come up with at least one.
Well, when people are tired, you can offer breaks that helps them refocus, especially people who might be taking methadone.
Yes. Yeah, offering breaks is definitely a good idea. How about if a participant goes into, maybe a slightly lengthy monologue about some, some serious emotional issues? Have you ever used, letting them know that, you need to focus on the research tasks right now, but that maybe, they could get in touch with their counselor later, something like that? Okay, last call for ideas on refocusing. Okay, then. All right, Josh, can you go ahead and close the lines again, please?
All lines are now closed.
Thank you. All right, a few notes before we begin the demonstration. The steps we have covered in Phase 3, the interview, are not fixed steps. Let's say you're going through the process with a participant and you're about ready to start collecting days of substance use, and all of a sudden you realize you haven't asked or documented treatment episodes. It's no big deal. Go ahead and do it at that point. The order of the steps in this training are a suggestion, just one way of doing it. Including all of them is the rule. Also, this is not scripted. It is a set of tools that help elicit the most accurate self-report data. And I want to emphasize most accurate, because sometimes it won't be perfect, and best estimates will need to be used at times, and that's completely acceptable. All right, so a live demonstration is going to follow this slide. I would like everyone to go ahead and take out your paper source calendar and a pen. And I want you to go ahead and practice collecting the information based on the participants' replies. Correct data collection will be demonstrated on the screen, but I know that it's going to be kind of hard to look at both while you're listening to the participant. So we will go through and review all the responses after the demonstration. So Liz, will you be my participant?
I will be your participant, Amanda.
Excellent. And I will be the interviewer.
All righty.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the demonstration. So everybody get your calendars and pens ready. And we're going to go ahead and start now. All right, now we are going to go through the timeline follow back. This is a process that helps people remember what substances were used on each day over a specified time period. During this assessment, we will document days when you used substances in the month of March, so we'll go all the way back to March 1st. The techniques I've learned by using this process have actually helped me personally when I have to remember stuff. This process aids accurate recollection of information needed for successful research. So it can help you and help us at the same time.
So wait, you expect me to remember everything I used over the past month?
I don't expect you to recall everything all at once. We're going to break the last month up into smaller time periods that may help you remember.
All right, well, okay, let's try.
Okay. First, we already have St. Patrick's Day, Easter Sunday, Daylight Savings Time, Good Friday listed on the calendar. Are there any other holidays that you celebrate in March?
No.
Okay. Do you happen to carry a personal calendar or planner that may have important dates documented?
No, I haven't carried one since I lost my job last year.
Okay. All right. Well, did you or anyone you know have a birthday in March?
Yeah, my son had a birthday on March 15th.
Okay, your son's birthday was on March 15th. Any other birthdays?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Were there any other days that had personal events, maybe an anniversary, starting or ending a job, moving to a new home?
I don't know. I don't know.
We're going to get through this together, and by taking a few minutes now to think of personal events that happened in the past month, once we get to recalling the days of substance use, it's going to be a lot easier.
Well, I stayed at my mom's house the night before my son's birthday. That's where he lives, and I remember I got kicked out of the motel on the 1st of March, which is why I had to stay at my mom's on the 14th. And that's all I can remember. You know, this month has really sucked. That's why I haven't gotten to rehab.
I understand. So, when exactly was it that you got into rehab?
I'm here today.
Okay, so treatment began March 31st, today.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you attend any 12-step meetings or other treatment options prior to the 31st?
No.
Okay. Next, can you recall if there were any days where you didn't use any substances at all?
Nope, I think I used every day.
Okay, then, let's go ahead and start documenting the substances that were used each day.
Wait, I didn't use anything on my son's birthday. And I didn't use anything the day after I got kicked out of the hotel because my money got stolen that was in the room, so I didn't have any money to get anything. Gosh, that day really sucked.
It sounds like it. But so there was no use on the 15th of March and the 2nd of March.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now that we're going to go ahead and get started, would it be easier for you to start with the first day of March, or do you want to start with yesterday?
Let's do yesterday.
Okay. Do you remember what you used yesterday?
Coke, and I drank vodka. That's the usual.
Okay, so cocaine and alcohol. How about the day before that? It was a Saturday.
Well, that was my going into treatment party. I used Coke. I drank a lot of alcohol. Smoked a little weed, and then I capped off the night with some downers.
All right. Do you remember what those downers were?
Yeah, they're Valium.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the day before your party, that would be the 28th.
Coke, vodka.
Okay, and now we're looking at the week between Easter Sunday and your party. On that Thursday, the 27th, do you recall your use?
Coke and alcohol every day, the 24th through the 27th.
Okay, so Coke and alcohol, no other drugs, the 24th through the 27th. Okay, let me go ahead and get this down. Okay, and how about on Easter?
Coke, weed. We did a couple speedballs.
Okay, was that speedball Coke and heroin? Okay, thanks. All right, and that concludes our demonstration portion. Of course, you know, if you're meeting with a regular participant, you go back through the 1st of March or whatever your protocol specified time period is. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep your calendars out. I'm just going to go through these slides here. As you can see, the demonstration is included in your notes. So next we're going to compare our documentation and go through any questions. So here is the calendar that we collected the demonstration on. Josh, can you go ahead and open up the lines again?
All lines are now open.
Thank you. All right, and did anyone get anything different from what is on the screen? I'm going to give you just a minute to compare. All right, did anybody find any discrepancies? Okay, I will take silence as perfection. Were there any questions about the demonstration, about anything that happened in the demonstration? Okay, then I have a specific question. Did anyone catch one of the techniques that were used for encouragement? Feel free to look back through the demonstration script if you need to.
There was empathy when the participant said that a particular day sucked, and you agreed with them.
Yes, showing empathy there, definitely. Any other techniques for encouragement?
When you said we're going to work through this together?
Exactly. So the participant was a bit distressed. They were like, I don't know. So, you know, you remind them, we're in this together, you know. You're not alone in doing this, and we'll get through it. So good. Okay. As you can see, and as I mentioned before, encouragement, it's something that most of us do naturally, and really making sure that you are being sure to include that can help the quality of the data that you're collecting. Okay, to sum it up, you've got your prep time, and don't underestimate the importance of prep time. So throughout this training, you've heard it referred back to a few times. Important to make sure you have everything set up right so that the interview will go smoothly. Phase 2, the introduction, also a very important part. That introduction, you know, it's where you build rapport, explain the process, let them know what's going to be going on. And phase 3, the interview and data collection. So you have the main steps of the interview, the tools that need to be included in there, and some explanation of what you do for data entry. And practice. Very important. You can print more calendars that were included in the email with the training materials, or you can use any standard calendar. It can be in any format, you know, as long as it's a calendar. But yeah, practice is vital to being able to do this correctly. You can practice with coworkers, friends. You know, my personal preference has always been to just have a big old timeline follow back practice party. But if you plan one of those, make sure to invite me. All right, so now we're just going to go ahead and open the lines for any questions at all in the training.
I have a question. When I was taking the notes as far as the substance used, I went back to my old physician days, and for alcohol, I wrote ETOH. Now, is that acceptable in terms of the documentation?
Okay, that's a very good question, and that is something that you're working on a specific protocol. You'd want to discuss that with your monitors and with the lead node. Some of the protocols actually have specific abbreviations. And if there isn't something outlined in the protocol or the operations manual, they might have a way that they prefer it. So, you know, using the symbol might be okay, or they might want you to write alcohol. You might even need to specify what kind of alcohol, just depending on what the clinical trial is collecting.
In terms of quantity of alcohol use, would you ever ask about quantity?
Yes, you might be involved in a protocol where you might need to know quantity of alcohol use, of you know, drug use, and that's something. You know, back earlier when we talked about that sometimes you have to go with the best estimates, that, you know, this process is tools for getting the most accurate self-report data. When it gets into breaking it down into, you know, how much was consumed, you need to really think about, you know, best estimate. How are you going to get the best estimate? So, yeah, that's all going to depend on the protocol as far as if you need to do that.
What about dealing with a patient who is completely unresponsive?
Okay, so I do remember back in my days of administering this, sometimes you would just get somebody that was like, I don't know. They didn't respond to anything. You know, using encouragement, you know, let them know that you're just going to work through day by day. If it's maybe that, you know, and you kind of have to, you know, evaluate the situation too. Is it that they are, you know, tired and don't feel like doing this right now? Are they being insubordinate? Are they not wanting to divulge it? Maybe there's some shame involved there. And so you'll need to evaluate the situation, try to figure out what's going on, and address that the best way possible. Has anybody had a specific situation where that's occurred? Okay, well, I can definitely speak to that. I mean, I did have a participant who, yeah, really wouldn't respond to any of the techniques. Required a little bit of, you know, side conversation and building a little bit more rapport, and then they were more willing to go through the process. Okay. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. All right, other questions? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions at this time, I want to make sure that you know that you can contact me via email or phone if you end up with questions later on. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic back over to Liz for some follow-up information. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. I just want to let everybody know I'm going to send out an email to all the participants. The email will have an attachment with an evaluation form. We strongly encourage you guys to fill out the evaluation form and provide us the feedback, which can contribute to the quality of some of our future sessions. Your feedback is very important to us. We have recorded this session. The CDs will be available. If you're interested in getting a CD, or you want to talk about other training opportunities, or you do have any follow-up questions, feel free to send an email to ctntraining@ms.com. The next session we have in line will be Site Management on June 12th, and that as well will begin at 1 p.m. Any questions can be addressed to that email address. I want to thank everybody for attending. It was a great session. Thanks, Amanda.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's teleconference. We appreciate your participation. Everyone, have a great day.
Thank you, Joshua.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome. You have a great day. Thank you.
You were so good. Every single solitary thing, and every time we did it, you incorporated every single solitary thing, and even up to the end, you were adding it. Oh, you were so good. You were so good about it. Don't feel bad about them not participating. That's a typical.
No, yeah.
Very
no,
typical.
I'm glad that I thought there actually was.